Welcome to another episode of Mindful City, Tuning into Life, a podcast that brings you an intimate exploration of the businesses, practitioners, and artists making an impact in our community. Join us on Patreon for an exploration of all the people, places, and things that raise consciousness in our community by telling us about the businesses and happenings you'd like to know more about, and we'll explore them for you. Welcome to another episode of Mindful Cities, Tuning into Life. I'm your host, Helen Blocker, and today we have as a special guest, Dr. Sarah Jefferis. I actually met Sarah at a conference in California, which I almost forgot because we've done so much together since that I almost forgot that for a minute. And it was really about conference was really about stepping and understanding ourselves, stepping out and really having support in our community to go out and help the community, but how to do it, because these days that's really tough. But interestingly enough, everyone there, I realized, were in the business of helping people, actually. So interesting is to know that everybody that's there was seeking for that support, for how to do that better. And that's an amazing group of people to be around. And then come to find out, we were able to establish a connection and keep that going. And so, Sarah, I'd like to welcome you to Tuning into Life.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. It was amazing meeting you in June. And that seems a bit like years and years ago.
Yes.
June 2024. I had to think for a second about the number.
Yes.
But yes, thank you for having me here.
Thank you. And you know what's so intriguing is even when we met, I didn't know this, but connecting with you later, what drew me today, and one of the reasons we wanted to have this conversation, is that Sarah has an incredible program called Mat to Pen. And I was just so touched by just the idea of being in yoga and having that come into writing form. And so we started connecting. We've done much more since. But I was so intrigued by that. Tell me a little bit about yourself, actually, because I would love for the listeners to get to know you a little better. And how did you get to Mat to Pen and that concept? We'll dive deeper, but just to get us going.
Oh, absolutely. Wow, such a great question. So I think I close my eyes a lot when I think, so it's good this is audio. So if there's a pause, it's me closing my eyes. I think we carry a lot of stories and memories in our bodies because we walk through the world in our bodies, and we may or may not be present in them, but we still walk through the world in our bodies, experiencing everything through our senses, and then having these memories. And then I was thinking about where do we carry them? Do we carry them in our hands? Do we carry them in our necks? Do we carry them in our hearts? Do we carry the memories in our feet or our hips or our thighs? Like, what does it actually mean to carry the years before us into this year? Mm-hmm. What does it actually mean to carry the stories of our past into this year? And I would come to the mat and I would need a little bit of time to arrive, because my mind moves very fast. I'm a poet. I'm an editor. I'm grateful to be the CEO of my own business called Right Now, which is a writing and yoga business using writing and yoga to help people move from sorrow to joy. Really using writing and yoga to help people be present in the moment as is. So anyway, when I would come to the yoga mat, as you know, just in my own practice, I would have all these ideas running and I would need a little bit of time, right? And I would be the kind of girl in the studio who would have her coffee cup, her water mug, and her journal by the which usually meant I was in the corner so more people didn't bump on me. But and I would need to write a few things down as I was arriving, right? Because I suddenly had a moment to be still. And then I noticed when I finished yoga, particularly maybe after Pigeon, after a story or a memory had come through my hips, I needed a minute to get out what I recalled,
Yes, that's
So
right.
writing in the beginning first became a place to release the wildness in my brain so I could find steadiness.
Mm.
Writing after yoga was either a place to let go of whatever came up or a place of possibility,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because the more we move our bodies, the more we release the fascia. According to the research, the more possibility and space we have up here,
Mm-hmm. Maybe
right?
she's touching
Because
her head.
trauma, yeah, I was like touching my head. Trauma and sorrow and anger and history takes a lot of brain space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
It's
so,
interesting because writing, often it's seen as something that you dedicate just the time to write to, right? You set it aside, you get your journal, you go to write. You're integrating movement into the writing. And, because often, you have, in school, you as kids, you're just moving around and you need that movement to kind of get that. And a lot of school systems aren't created for us to think on the spot or to really write that down. So have you noticed in clients that you've worked with and students that have participated in the programs that you do, have you noticed and have they noticed how that has worked for them in pulling the information out?
yeah, absolutely. With clients that I've worked with, they've noticed they were able to arrive to a truth on the page that they didn't know they had. They
Mm-hmm.
were also able to arrive to some feelings on the page, especially knowing they didn't have to share it in that moment, right? Mat to Pen is at the moment it's a 6-week series, but in March on the 16th, it'll be a 7-week Sunday evening series, which I'm happy to tell people who are listening to. I can share a link with you for them to
Yes,
sign up, but
please. Mm-hmm.
it's a 7-week series on Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And clients have noticed that they were able to write a truth they didn't even know they had. And they were able also to not hold on to a memory that had been so painful.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so perhaps we might write about a time in which they were able to be courageous and speak their truth if we're working on throat chakras and the
Right.
thyroid and the shoulders by moving through perhaps supine twist or perhaps threading the needle where you place one arm underneath. I'm realizing people don't see me, so I'm like talking about what I'm
Yes, no, I
doing with
love your
my body.
description.
I only know how to like I speak in like a full body sport, so my arms are
Yeah.
like moving around, but um yes. So I have noticed that clients really do resonate with this idea of like writing, movement, writing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that it doesn't interrupt the flow, it actually strengthens the flow. It
Mm-hmm.
also, because it's a yin practice, we stay in a pose a little bit longer. The deepening that we get by journaling is
Mm-hmm.
mirrored in the deepening of staying in a pose for a longer time.
Mhm. Something of doing mat to pen with you that I
Yeah.
found helpful because sometimes, and in some retreats that we do, we encourage a lot of writings, and there is there's a block to even beginning to write, and especially when we have judgment of ourselves on what we're expecting to see written down. One of the
Mm.
things that I really enjoy that you do in the workshop is prompts. Tell us a little bit about it. How do you come up with what to prompt and how is that received? Because I knew it was important for me, that I had some idea because especially if the mind's all over the place, you can't even begin to think of what to write. I'm like, well, thanks for the time, but
Yes, 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 yes. That's such a great question. I guess the first way I've been thinking about that is that, I really think, Deborah Adele said, and I agree with her a lot. She said, yoga is a technology for removing the illusionary veil that stands between us and the animating force of life.
Mm,
Yoga is a technology for removing the illusionary veil that stands between us and the animating force of life. And I
wow.
think about that in relationship to how can we move, and how can we write together? Coming back to the prompts, some of it is meditation. What is the thing that we are focusing on today? Okay, we're focusing on root chakra. Okay, that's at the very bottom of our body, and thinking about the pelvis and thinking about the thighs and thinking about the sacrum. Okay, what has roots? And then I will go into meditation, and maybe it's a tree that arrives, and I start thinking about how roots of tree systems speak to each other. Or I think about the root of a vegetable, like literally it's coming from the chakra to the word, to other places that are roots. So in that particular time, when we did the root chakra, the first thing we started writing about is what kind of trees we love.
Yes.
And what kind of tree we would be, and where we have established roots in our own life.
You have a very beautiful way of, if you look at it at the surface, that's by no means what I was thinking. I just saw a tree, but I love the way that you. You're so eloquent with your words, and everything you write. I really truly enjoy. I can see your that you write poetry, that you've published your poetry. I could see that because that connection, and you bring that out. It really you have such a skill because you bring that out of people. Because if you think about it on your own, even if you sat me down and you say write. You just giving them the hand, giving them the movement, and then giving some prompts and thoughts to get there. I loved how you were explaining a little bit about the pelvis and the areas surrounding the root chakra. In your experience with clients or students who have done the program, which areas, if it's organs or areas of the body, do you feel is the hardest for people? Where do they keep the most? And is there one particular place, or what's your, I'm just
that's
curious.
a great question, right? Because I know when you've done Mat Depend with me, sometimes we talk about the hand on the heart and the hand on the belly. And I think some people are deep belly breathers, and they'll just notice that the breath moves deeper in the belly. And some people are more like chest breathers. And then I'm also like, we do have these like lungs and ribs over here, like on the side of our body that we sometimes ignore, right? We are breathing, in
a small space.
In a small space. Yes. And so I say all that to say, sometimes just paying attention to where we breathe is something that I've noticed clients really value in the program. But you asked me, which chakra or which organ. I feel a lot that the heart chakra is a place that some clients really struggle to get to. There are those of us who believe that we are born pure at heart, and then we create a wall around our heart, and then a wall around that heart, and then a wall around the heart. And yet the heart is so, you're asking me on Valentine's Day, and I love, and I'm a poet. So like, we're going to get the heart chakra, but the heart, of course, is the place of electricity and lightning, and the place of like pumping and plumbing. Right. And so I think people might do really well working on the throat chakra and being able to sort of open their neck, or they might really be interested in like the root chakra and thinking about their hips, or even the third eye and being intuitive, because those of us who are working in the yoga healing fields often talk about what did I see on the inside. But the heart chakra is one that I think we all can come back to and see, are we working in our own light? And are we working on our own circulation? That sort of like plumbing quality of the heart, right? Yes. So I like to think of the chakras as both this circle of energy that's moving through the body, but also the circle of energy that's connected to the particular organ. And what is that organ doing?
Doing there.
And so you could feel light and in light and lightning and high spirited and still have a circulation plumbing issue with the part of your heart and how your blood is moving through your body. And so what yoga can we do to help with that circulation? And is that legs up the wall? And is that feet at a certain place up the wall, or is that rubbing on certain parts of the body that have to do with lymph spaces, right? And so I think that answers your question.
Yes, for sure. And sometimes it's also super specific because I know you do the, workshop in a sense with a group and we all work through it in our own way. Do you do this with clients individually too? And because sometimes the writing isn't just particularly journaling, you also help people write books and their stories and things that they memoirs. So how does that work there? And do you find it, different experience?
The 6-week program and also the 7-week program that's starting in March includes a 1-to-1 hour of coaching with me. And that's where we share the writing and journaling. And that's where the client can be witnessed on, I wrote about the root chakra and the tree, or I wrote about the throat chakra. And then I can begin to hear, they're actually making a blog. That's a gorgeous essay. Or, that would be a beautiful poem and a short story, depending on how we start it. At the same time, if I'm working with a client who maybe she's working on a memoir and she's stuck on a particular story that she wants to put in the memoir, she has writer's block. Because at my core, I think yoga is the thing that helps break writer's block.
Yes. That's amazing.
We can move through it. So I've had clients who might be stuck on a particular memoir, and I will say, can you get your mat out? And can we remember the experience? Just talk me through it, like read what you've written, or just talk me through it. And then I will have them do a few yoga moves while they're talking. And suddenly the memory or the place that's stuck arrives. And so it's almost as if the mat, which of course, is this great experiment place, right? Adele again says it's an ongoing participatory experiment in which the world and every part of our life becomes a laboratory. A laboratory.
Amazing.
So
yes.
If we're stuck on the mat with an image that we're trying to write and we're stuck at the computer, if we go to the laboratory and we move our hip a certain way, what might we find? Right? Because the memory occurred in your hip. It's not like your hip wasn't there. Your hip was there 10 years ago. It had the same experience. So in the same way that the body knows the score, I would say the body remembers.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but sometimes my body remembers everything beautiful and sometimes I'd like it to forget a little.
Yes.
Right? And so I think yoga and writing help us attune to the memories.
Do you feel sometimes the body remembers it differently?
I do.
Sometimes the body choose in the way that it wants to. So, do you have to work with someone to really be more objective in the way that they're looking at what's in there?
Yes.
Right? Because how did the body perceive that information and, and looking back and writing through to see what's truly there.
Yes. Especially because memories are an account of what we have experienced and a creative recall of that experience.
I love, yes.
Right. So they are both truth and non-truth. They are fiction and non-fiction. So the truth of the experience occurred, but it could have occurred on a Tuesday or a Wednesday.
Yeah. And it could have been hot or cold. We're not quite sure what exactly was going on.
But the feeling around the memory stays in the body.
Right.
And maybe that's why the muscle is tight. Maybe that's why the fascia feels like rocks. Maybe that's why it's hard to lift the shoulder above the head.
That's incredible. I wanted to, number one, I wanted to thank you for allowing me to experience that. I loved Mat to Pen and what you're doing. It's been amazing, and I'm in the program right now with you, and I'm looking to join again, because I need to write. There's just a few things that I've put for myself that I really want to write, and getting that out of my system, but completely like writing with my entire body. It was so intriguing, and it's incredible that you've created this and you continue to evolve the process and change it according to, everyone you're working with. So thank you for that. And thank you for coming on the show today. And I think there's a lot more to talk about. And I would love to bring you back,
Thank you.
so we could discuss
Yes.
a little more. And
Yes.
I'll send some information about the program that will be in March and share that
Yes.
with the audience. So thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Yeah, there'll be a Mat to Pen live link that people can sign up for next week. And
Okay,
it
great.
includes 7 weeks. The 7-week program, if I can just tell you real quick, really focuses on the yoga and the writing focus for the second session. It doesn't matter whether you want to write a poem or an essay or a story or a genre or a blog like that. The thing that you're writing is welcome. The focus of the writing for the second 7 weeks will be more about loving kindness and nonviolence and creating peace.
Yeah.
I feel like part of my life's work is to create peaceful spaces, especially right now in all of the chaos. And I think some of us are meant to protest in the streets, and some of us are meant to call our congressmen, and some of us are meant to write letters, and some of us are meant to create peaceful spaces for everyone else who might also be protesting who needs to come back. And so for me, I think I read this quote somewhere one time: in a world that prioritizes profiting off of our pain, it is a radical act of resistance to prioritize our health and create peace.
Sure is. Well, I'm glad that you're creating those spaces, whether in person or virtually. You do a great job at bringing us together and calling our attention to it. So thank you
so much.